Hello, how you doing? I'm Craig Parkinson. You are listening to the Two Shot Podcast. Sit yourself down, pop the kettle on. We're going to have a nice old chat. Who's in with this week? I'm going to tell you right now. So here we are. I'm excited. Honestly, I feel I sound a bit relaxed. I'm not. I'm mega excited. I can't believe that I'm saying this is the Two Shot Podcast. It is episode 20. I think it's just flown by. And this week is as special as every other week. But it's 20. It's episode 20. And we're a young podcast, we're new, you know that. But I'm really proud of every episode that we do, that we put out, and the guests that we have on, sharing just incredible stories. And this week is no exception. This week it's Mr. Danny Mays. I'm thrilled. I love Danny to bits. He's been a really close friend of mine for donkeys. And, we used to live together, and I've always looked up to him. He's an exceptional actor, and he's hilarious, and I love spending time with him. And what better way than to do it on the podcast? I know you're all excited. Your messages this week, when we announced it was Danny, you're as excited as we are. Now, you know that we've started the Patreon thing. Patreon.com/2shotpod for people who want to throw us some money if they like what we do, because we do this out of our own pockets. We are not part of any sort of network of podcasts, or we're not sponsored. You don't have any sponsors on this podcast. There's no I was going to actually say a very well-known sponsor of a lot of podcasts then. I thought, no, I better not do that if they're not going to give us any money for it. But the people who do give us money for it are you guys. And we are grateful for every pound or whatever it is that you want to give us to show your appreciation and to keep this podcast going. But there are a few people who just go a little bit further, and they are the super backers, the patron super backers. And I've got 3 this week that I want to shout out. Adele Silva, are you listening to me? Right, your generosity and your support throughout since we've started the podcast it's so great. We're really grateful for it. See, I'm lost for words. Who else have we got? Kevin Proctor, thank you, my man. You're so kind. I'm really, really pleased that you're enjoying it. I don't know why I said kind like that and kind. I don't know where I'm from. I'm supposed to be from Blackpool. Ridiculous. Sarah Figueredo. I hope I'm saying that right. Apologies if not, but thank you so much. We're kind of gobsmacked. We always thought that if one person listened and got in touch and said, oh yeah, no, I really like that episode, I like what you do, we thought, oh, well, that's great. We've sort of, entertained or inspired one person. But the fact that we have a growing listenership is quite overwhelming. Anyway, I'm blathering as usual, but what I need you to do, well, if you want, stay around for after episode 20. I've got some very, very exciting news. It's just happened in the last sort of 3 days, and I haven't posted it anywhere. Me and producer Griff are still discussing things, so there's a certain few things I can't tell you, but the main bulk of it is that I can tell you. So stick around at the end. Oh, and one more thing. A little birdie has told me that it's somebody's 40th birthday this weekend. Wes, happy birthday from all of us at Two Shot Pod. I know you were going to go and see Shed 7 in Dublin. Poor Rick Witter is not too good, but don't worry. you'll still have a fantastic time. So loads and loads of love from us here at Two Shot Pod. You take care, Wes. Enough of this. Let's get on to that. It's episode 20 with the brilliant Mr. Danny Mays. Enjoy. How is half term when you're acting? You've got two kids with you and Lou. Do you think does it work out? Does it get a bit heavy sometimes?
It's trial and error, isn't it? It's sort of at the moment it's fine because the thing I'm filming, it's so spaced out. We're off to Bordeaux to Lou's cousins, so we haven't actually had the opportunity to go there for over a year. They've been there over a year now, but because Milo was in Matilda.
Of course he was.
So he was slaving away on the West End stage for 6 months, so it sort of dictated where we could go and what we could do.
Yeah. Has it been trouble in the past, juggling work and kids? Do you find it hard?
Well, before they go to school, it's fine, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, I remember doing a job, Outcasts in South Africa. That was before Milo had started school, so it was great. You can take them out with you. The production company, Kudos, accommodated it all. It was fantastic, and he had an amazing experience. The tricky thing obviously happens when they're in school, and you have to balance that up. I've actually... the older you get and the kids mature and those long periods of time away with filming, you have to weigh it up. Is the sacrifice worth it?
Yeah.
I actually turned something down like this year, again in South Africa, purely because I actually wanted to be around for Milo with his experience of Matilda.
Well, it's important because you can't get that back. If that goes, you can't do that again for you. That's done.
But then, we've all got to pay the mortgage and the bills and, tuition fees or whatever it is. So sometimes you just have to, saying yes to a job it's always like a whole, variety of reasons why you say yes to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is for your bank balance. There's no question about that.
Of course.
It's a lifestyle thing, isn't it? It's a life choice. The dreamland is when you do something artistically fulfilling and you get the payday along with it.
It'll come at some point, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it will.
Talking about paying the bills and stuff, what did your mum and dad do to pay the bills?
I've got to stop the interview.
I'll tell you about that in the intro. But growing up in Booker still...
No, that made out that my mum and dad were doing sort of weird, unsavoury jobs for a living, doesn't it?
This goes back to something that me and Danny were talking about
He was a bailiff.
Pre this chat. Mr. Mays wasn't a bailiff. What was Mr. Mays? What did he do?
My dad still is an electrician. He worked for a company called Taylor Woodrow.
Yeah.
And
in Essex, yeah.
In Essex,
right.
I grew up in Buckerstill in Essex. And then... when I was very small, he started his own business, London and Essex Electrical, with his business partner, Charlie Butcher.
Give it a plug.
There you go. He's still available for work, everyone. He'll sort your lights out, no worries. And my mum was a bank cashier at Midland Bank in Loughton, and then Dad's business was going well, and she then started to be his secretary. So, yeah.
Keep it in the family.
Yeah, and... it was amazing, really. I just got... He still goes out in his van now, Got the most untidiest van in London. Just throws all his tools in the back. I have strong memories of me sitting in the back of his van, and like tools bouncing off your head and things like that, him driving crazy.
Does he have one of those stickers on the back of the van saying no tools kept in his van overnight?
I think listen, he's had his tools nicked enough times.
I think it's awful, but I don't really understand.
You don't want to go near him for a week when that happens.
But I've seen it happen to... someone put it on social media that somebody had taken someone's livelihood away the other day.
It's shocking.
It's absolutely terrible.
Horrendous. But no, so they... I think my dad, listen, for me, he's the hardest working man I know. That sounds a bit cliched when I say that. I'm one of 4 boys. I've got 2 older brothers, Paul and Jonathan, and a younger brother, Ryan.
What do they do?
Paul's a cricket groundsman. Jonathan works in waste now. He's a salesman. He used to work in like an arcade salesman in Cosmic Video. That folded. He's now in Waste. And Ryan's a money broker in the city. Well, in Canary Wharf.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm the only one, you know, cousins, brothers, friends, really, from that area that wanted to go into show business, really, wanted to act.
What was primary school like? How far, memory-wise, how far do we go back with you? With memory-wise, what do you think?
What, in terms of
sort of primary school?
I went to St John's C of E in Buckerstill. The first ever, I was thinking about this, the first ever performance I ever did, I can't believe I'm going to share this with you now. They did a production of 40 Towers.
At what age?
I was at infant school, man. It was like young.
Really?
Yeah, and I remember remember some form of audition or something like that. And my mate Glenn Watts got Basil Fawlty, and that's the role I wanted. And I was devastated. I can remember crying and all that sort of stuff. And so I didn't get the gig. And then Glenn Watts was rather naughty, and he lost the part, and they gave it to me. But I can remember on the school stage at St John's, Danny Williams was Manuel, all that sort of stuff. But, you know, it's mad how your memory goes all the way back. That was actually the first ever, you know, I can remember being on stage, I can remember people laughing, I can remember the response to it. So yeah, there you go. The first thing I went up for, I didn't get it. There's a pattern here. Welcome to the world of acting, Danny. It ain't going to change.
Well, did you get the buzz then, do you think? Would that where it start? It must have started prior to you. Well, you must have had a little something in.
I tell you what it is, I think, and someone, a journalist interviewed me, and, you know, being one of 4 boys, you know, it was a rather loud, boisterous but loving household. Sports mad. It was either golf, football, or cricket.
Did that come from your dad?
Yeah, my dad used to play for Kelvin and Hatch. He was a fantastic footballer, as were my 2 older brothers. I mean, they're quite dominating presence, really, in the household. Particularly my older brother, Paul, was probably the best footballer out of all of us, you know. And I just followed in their footsteps. I mean, way back when, I mean, I was like most kids, I just wanted to be a footballer. Yeah. I was captain of Loughton Boys. I played sweeper at the back, you know, shouting away and ordering people around. So that's really what I wanted to do. I was sort of really into sport and things like that. But then gradually, I think being, you know, the third in line and being that middle child, you sort of shout to be heard a bit, and maybe the acting thing kicked in, or performing kicked in, to try to be different. Yeah. Do you understand what I mean? Because I was always jumping around doing impressions. I was either doing Frank Bruno or Prince Charles, or, you know, pulling my ears out and all that sort of stuff to me mum and dad's friends. So there was always a sort of need to be loved. No, just to be recognised. Yeah. But whether that was heard. But this journalist said, well, maybe that's, you know, subconsciously that was happening because you were, you know, one of, you know, a middle child, and so and
also in a male-dominated house.
Yeah, very, you know, it was very like male-dominated. It was very you know, there was always something happening. And my mum and dad in particular they're very gregarious people. Do you know what I mean? They're very social people. We would always go away on a holiday. They've got a huge network of friends. So like they're really popular, but they are, you know what I mean? We would go away to Cornwall and all these places, and, you know, one of my best friends, Matthew Farr, he's one of 4 boys. So it was like, in Buckerstill, there was the Mays boys, 4. There was my mum's best friend, Rita Farr. She had 4 boys. And there was another family, the Gibsons. So you had the Gibsons, the Mayses and the Farrs. So you can imagine the stuff we all got up to. I won't say anything more about that.
Do you still have a close relationship with your brothers now?
I do. I mean, I've been really lucky, both with my brothers and my mum and dad. They have never wavered in their support in the sort of career path that I've chose. I've been so blessed in that respect. You know, it's sort of a bit left field, isn't it? You suddenly turn around, because it all really started with dancing. Really?
When did the dancing come in?
Well, as you know, Craig, I can do a mean Michael Jackson impression.
I know this, but I've got to,
I've got to
throw
build
it
up
out
to
there
it.
to the listeners. We've got to build it up.
Kick on Billie Jean now. That's really where the whole thing started.
Did that come? So that come after Faulty Towers? Was this still at
Oh
infant
yeah,
school?
that 40 Hours was way back when. And then I was playing football and just being a normal boy. And then I'll tell you exactly what it was. I was probably about 11. I was about 11 or 12. I opened up my stocking at Christmas. My mum put in a cassette of Michael Jackson Bad, along with a Michael Jackson video. The Legend Continues. See, it's just ingrained on my brain. I can remember it like it was yesterday. And so, like a lot of kids back then, he was such an amazing singer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I was really into that. And then my mum took me to the Bad Tour at Wembley. So I was 11. And Rita, my mum's best friend Rita went. She took her son, James, far. And I went with my mum. And I just remember queuing up to get in. And I'd never been to Wembley before in my life, or I might have done to see an England game, but I'd never been to a concert like that before. I'd never been in and amongst a sea of people. I couldn't, like that whole world is so small to you, when you're that young. And I couldn't quite get my head around that all these people had turned up to see this one person, And
there's a real
and
buzz.
we were actually standing. We actually managed to get on this sort of scaffolding box thing. So we were actually not on the seats or on the pitch. We were like halfway sort of in between the two. So we were slightly raised. We had an amazing view of the stage, and the steward was like, yeah, you're all right, just stay there. So we actually lucked out.
Yeah.
And then he came on. And I swear to you, Craig, it was like a light bulb moment. As you know, I've told you this. But it was literally the end of Billie Jean. There's like the dance at the very end, and he goes into sort of like it's just him on his own in the spotlight at the end. If you've seen footage of that on YouTube, and it's just him dancing, and he's got the hat, the sequin coat, the glove, everything like that. Absolutely hypnotised me. I'd never seen anything like it, and it was like a light bulb moment. I just thought, I want to do that. I mean, it sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And naive.
I don't think it sounds naive at all, because I think when something like that happens, it's the buzz, it's the thrill.
It was magical. And that was me. I went back, I got the hat, I got the toweling socks, the black loafers.
Half-mast trousers.
And I was locked myself in the bedroom, and I was just mastering his dance moves. And it became my party piece. It became every school disco. Michael Jackson came on. All the kids, all my mates would make a big circle, right? And that would be my thing. And I'd be in the middle doing all the moves, the moonwalk, the kicks, everything. I can remember going on to Centre Parks with my mum and dad and all their friends in the chalet, all the dads playing poker in a makeshift roulette wheel, and all the mums, me running back to our chalet, getting the white cassette recorder and me black drill me hat, coming back and entertaining all the mums. And I remember going round with the hat, and all the dads started throwing pound coins in me hat as I went round like that. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Wow.
So it became the thing, and it was from there that we went to Stage 1 dance school, which was in Loughton, which was my local area, the next town on.
So up till then, it'd just been you sort of mastering and practising it in your bedroom. You hadn't really had you'd gone to any dance classes or anything like that?
No, nothing like that. I was sort of self-taught in front of the mirror, and then I went down to Stage 1 because I'd obviously showed an interest in it and an enthusiasm. And I went in there, and there was only me and another boy called Jamie, and I didn't go back.
Didn't you?
No, it was full of girls in leotards and tights and everything else.
And of course, they weren't
doing ballet
or whatever. Michael Jackson songs.
But it was like jazz dancing, really.
Right. Okay.
But there was only me and another boy, and I just shied away from it. I thought, I can't do this. But it was always ticking away in the back of my mind. And my mum said, well, why don't you go back? And I went. Then I rejoined.
How long ago?
It was like I don't know, like 6 months later or a year later or something like that. And then I stayed with it. And then I do remember they had like a huge sort of dance competition. And everyone used to get up and do their pieces. And I obviously did my My
Jackson.
Michael Jackson was to Man in the Mirror. It wasn't to Billie Jean. That was the song that I picked, and I ended up winning it. And
Did you?
Yeah, I got the trophy. So it was like this amazing thing, and the Gazette, the local paper, came round and took a picture of me. There was me and all me get up and that, and so it was a sort of first sort of, I don't know, recognition, or it was something to be proud of. It was something that I'd applied myself to.
Yeah.
And that was me going to stage one. And so I was playing football at the same time and going to dance school.
Like, so you're still keeping up the sport?
Yeah, so I was still captain of Loughton Boys. I remember going to Loughton Boys training once, and I had my Michael Jackson tour T-shirt. Do you know what I mean? I remember buying that when I left the concert. I remember in the tube walking home with my mum after that Michael Jackson concert. And I remember like huge posters, like the touts selling them, things like that. Just everything I remember about that day is just like it was yesterday. And so these things were going on, and then I just became more infused and interested in performing. And then the football really, like...
Did it take a back seat?
It just started to take a back seat, yeah.
And academically, how were you at school?
I've opened me sparkling mineral water and it's gone everywhere. I was good. I was.
Did you enjoy it?
Just normal secondary school.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was I went to West Hatch in Chigwell for the first and second year. I was, I guess one could say, not class clown, but there was all that sort of going on, wasn't it? You always the centre of attention and all that sort of stuff. But what happened was I was still at stage one. Caroline Hurst, who's still a dear friend of mine, and it was really Caroline, the dance teacher there, who turned around to my mum and said, look, he's got something here and he's enthusiastic, and she saw a spark in me. And she said, what do you think about going to stage school? So it was really Caroline putting it out there. And
what did you feel about that when she said that?
I didn't know what to think of it, really. I couldn't really imagine
because you had
myself.
no frame of reference. Did you?
No, not at all.
No.
I couldn't imagine myself like, what do you mean? Like, I've got to go to school up in London and do... and, you know, be a stage school kid and, you know, not go to school in my local area. It was just an alien idea to me. And so, because Caroline herself had gone to Sylvia Young, but the wheels were put in motion, and where I auditioned for was Italia Conti. I think I auditioned for Sylvia Young, if I remember as well. No, I auditioned for Sylvia Young. I auditioned for Ravens Court, is it? And I also auditioned for Italia Conti.
Right. And
the thing that was brilliant about Conti's was the academic side, and Cliff Vogt, who was the headmaster then.
Because there was a nice balance between the two.
Yeah, I think academically we felt that Conti's was a lot stronger than any of the others. And if I was going to do this, I think, you know, my mum and dad said, if you're going to do this, we don't want your schoolwork to go down the pan. You know what I mean? You can follow your dreams of wanting to, you know, perform and, you know, do musical theatre or whatever it is. But we obviously want to keep, you know, the academic side ticking over as well. And for us, Conti's just fitted the bill. And so I auditioned and I left, you know, my local secondary school, West Hatch.
How did you feel about that? Because obviously you'd made friends there for a couple of years. Or had you?
No, I had, yeah. I mean, I was very popular, you know what I mean? I had a great time there, and it was scary. I remember it being scary. I remember going up to the shop in Uptown and buying the blue uniform, you know, the Conti blue uniform with the badge and everything. And but all of a sudden it wasn't just Michael Jackson dancing. It was tap, ballet, jazz, singing, acting, improvisation. It was all of that stuff, and it was an agency at the top of the building.
Right.
See, this is the thing, you know, stage schools, I don't know if it's changed now, but I think it's still the policy at Italia Conti is that there's a working agency there.
So everybody who goes there signs with that agent at the top?
Yeah.
Right.
So there I was, you know, I got the train up from Buckerstill on the Central Line, all on my own, yeah.
Every day?
Yeah, there was another guy called Matthew Coates who came from Epping, and we used to meet up.
So how old were you now, 14?
I was 13, I think, 13, 14. And Mum used to pick me up at the station when I came back.
And obviously all this wasn't free. Did you get a grant for this?
I got a
scholarship.
Yeah, I got a local county grant. I remember having to go and do some sort of performance, an acting piece, and or like a poem or something. I most probably did Michael Jackson again. he's done all right for me.
If it ain't broke, then.
Hey, cheers, MJ. If it ain't broke. And so I did get some financial help from a local grant, but I also think Mum and Dad contributed some of it as well.
Because how long? Obviously, you were going to be there up to your GCSEs. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah. So I did 3 years there, but it was an absolutely joyous time. Actually, it was. You know, stage school's like full of, you know, kids who are always the most outgoing and sort of popular and look at me and all that sort of stuff. You know, in every school you've been, you know, so they're all just there in one building. And it was an unforgettable and joyous and fantastic time. Made great friends, had a lot of laughs, and learnt a hell of a lot, you know. And it was only when I was there that I met my first acting teacher, Dennis Noonan. I actually presented at the Teachers' Awards on Wednesday night this week. And I gave a shout out to Dennis, who was my first acting teacher, who is an absolute card, one of the funniest characters you'll ever meet. And he was just extraordinary for me, and we just hit it off from the word go. And he was the first person. He broke all the rules, Dennis. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what it was that sort of thing of getting you into the space, freeing you up, losing your inhibitions, and just putting you into a scenario and just letting you go. I didn't know what improvisation was. And it was like a light bulb moment, like going to Wembley and seeing Michael Jackson. A light bulb moment of going, wow, you can use your imagination and go off at a tangent and say anything, what you feel, and just...
There's no rules.
There's no rules.
Yeah.
And you can make people laugh, and you can make people cry, and you can do all this sort of stuff, you know.
So was he a massive inspiration for you at that time?
Huge. Very close to him now. One of my best friends, indebted to him. I feel like, you know, you get great teachers, don't you, along the way. Another teacher I should mention, actually, Italia Conti. As you know, I love my artwork as well. I do a lot of oil painting, not as much as I'd like to. But I had another hugely influential teacher there called Jane Todd, who took me through my GCSEs, who is an absolute inspiration for Italia Conti, and a wonderful teacher.
Is she still there?
She's still there, yeah.
Right.
She gets phenomenal results. She got me an A star in art. She just... both those teachers, Dennis and Jane, were teachers in which they listened to you, they listened to the individual pupil, and they fired their imagination. And they used the strength of each individual and just let them soar.
God, it's so incredible to hear that when that happens.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it happens enough nowadays.
No. And,
of course, class sizes are much bigger nowadays.
So they were massive influences.
Where do you think touching on the art a minute, where did that come from? Was your mum and dad, could they draw? Could your brothers draw?
No, not really, no. It's sort of like, they're going to like this podcast, are they? No, it was... I was always able to look at something and sketch it. I was always able to look at anything, pick a pencil up and
copy it.
I could copy it. And it would take me ages. I mean, I'm...
But you stick with it?
Craig, if I'm oil painting... I remember one oil painting took me... This is when I was about 16. It took me all summer to complete. But I'd get up. I mean, it would be like sort of... I'd religiously go back to it until it was perfect, you know? And it's sort of long and arduous and time consuming, but I mean, I don't really do it now, and I should do, really. It'd probably chill me out a lot more.
Do you ever get to that point when you're painting, right, it's finished? When do you know when to stop?
I think it comes to a natural point where you know when to put the brush down.
Yeah.
But again, it was all from Jane Todd. She would say, where's your sketchbook? Take your sketchbook out with you. Sketch every day. Look at something. So I've always been looking at people and observing it, whether it be, I remember taking my sketchbook on the tube spotting and just drawing someone and things like that. It's a great discipline to have.
Yeah.
You know?
Even if you're not an artist.
Even if you're not.
To people watch is incredible. I mean, we're in the heart of London now, in Soho, in the summertime, to sit outside this cafe that we're in now and just to catch little
that's all what
bits
we do
of
as
conversation.
actors.
Well, exactly. That's exactly, you're constantly
we just
working.
observe,
yeah,
and we steal. That's all we do.
So
there are other things.
So where are we now?
Daddy.
We've graduated. We've got our GCSEs. How did you do? How did that?
I did really well. I did great. I did So
the balance of being artistic and academic really worked for you there.
Yeah, but it seemed to be an amazing school, I tell you. It was an amazing school. It was like I said, I've got nothing but the highest of praise for the headmaster, Cliff Vogt, because he ran it brilliantly. You know, as much as the vocational side was top drawer, as was the academic side of things.
Because it must be hard to balance for some children.
Yeah.
Some children just not into it. They just want to be artistic and express themselves.
You know, you'd go in and you'd do your mornings tap ballet, and I mean that was the other thing I had to get my head around was boys ballet.
Yeah,
that was the biggest fear. I still have nightmares about it now. Blue tights, white leotard. I mean, God, I didn't like that, but there you go.
Before you went, did you ever speak to your mum and dad and express, or maybe you didn't even feel it? Did you worry at all? What if this didn't work out? Jumping from, a secondary school into this whole... It's a bit of a whole new world, really.
I don't think we consciously thought of that. It was just a giant actual leap into the unknown. I mean, look, my biggest fear for my kids is if they don't find something that infuses them and they enjoy and they can't apply themselves to. That's every parent's nightmare. It's my nightmare.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
I mean, God, we're all fixed to our phones, aren't we, and everything, particularly kids. You've got to try and prize that out of their hands.
We try not to be. My little boy, who's 6, me and my wife were both on our phones about sort of 5 o'clock a couple of weeks ago, and he said, you two are just always on your phones.
Yeah.
And then my wife went, do you know what?
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah.
He's 6. Right, at 6 o'clock, phones go off.
Yeah, no, it's a great rule.
We're trying.
And when they go to bed, you get your phone out again.
It is hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
But I totally agree.
But, it was... So
there was no worry, or was there?
It was just... I don't think... It was what it was. It was like a leap into the unknown. And I think... But because I was so enthusiastic about it, because I was so... Because I wanted to do it, because I had a desire to do it, then, because look, as I'm going back about my dad, it's probably a bit left field for my dad. My mum was always like, we'll support you. And then dad was like, all right, let's go for it, And from day one, they've always been behind me.
But obviously, it's been instilled from your parents about that work ethic.
I've got that, but I got that from my dad. I got it from my mum and my dad. But particularly my dad, that sort of, getting up very early, hard graft, it's not easy what he does,
but he obviously enjoys what he does.
Oh God, my dad's an absolute workaholic.
Yeah,
I mean, my agent's always saying to me, turn stuff down, Danny, but I can see the merit and the benefit in everything that I do.
Yeah,
and any actor worth anything should participate, because you never know what's going to come of something. You could actually say yes to a play and it could go through the roof. You could go to the West End, you could go to Broadway. You just don't know.
Yeah.
You could do... I always use... I mean, I know you don't like to talk about credits, but I did a film, Shifty, which was a micro-budget film, shot in 3 weeks, a week's rehearsal. I think, there was no money in it, but I read the script from Iran Creever and thought, this is absolute dynamite. Went through the roof.
Yeah, it was a brilliant
cult film.
Yeah.
Great experience. Had a great time on it. So...
But, work breeds work.
Exactly. And, you know, as you know, it's precarious and dog eat dog, and there are a million pitfalls to it. But there's also great things that can happen.
Of course there is.
So you just got to put your foot in the door. You got to keep it in the door.
Yeah.
You got to keep working and never give up.
So, with being at Natalia Conti, obviously they're not just training you in one specific discipline. You've got loads of things being thrown at you there. You've got dancing, you've got singing. When did you go, actually, we need to sort of focus on one specific thing?
Well, as you get older, again, it's another moment, light bulb moment again, when I can remember doing my arts GCSE coursework, or I used to paint on the dining room table at home. I was doing my GCSE art, and on Channel 4, they had a retrospective of De Niro films. So you get older, don't you? And your
tastes change.
Your tastes change. And he was like an amazing inspiration to me. But I was painting every Sunday, and there was this bust of his head, and you know, it was this big thing. And every week there was like Taxi Driver, Godfather Part 2, Raging Bull, and I would be painting there, looking like, so as I'm painting, I'm watching at the same time, and I'm going, how the fuck can all these performances be coming from the same person? It literally blew my mind.
Yeah.
So, yes, I was getting interested in independent American cinema. No, but as I was getting older and as I was maturing there at Natalia Conti, and as I was doing classes with Dennis, as I was doing improvisation classes, I thought, wow, this acting thing, man, this is good. This is so much more absorbing for me than dance, than musical theatre, tits and teeth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically how it was. And I actually did recognise at the time, I thought to myself, there's far better longevity as an actor than there is really as a dancer or a musical theatre.
Yeah, of course.
There was that, but it was deeper than that. I was getting more and more drawn to what it means to internalise a character. It seemed a lot more serious and focused and meaningful just to focus on acting. And then I was, you know, and then I remember bunking off school. I remember me and my mate Alex, he said, come on, let's go. And we bunked off and we went and go and watched Pulp Fiction in Leicester Square.
That's where I saw Pulp Fiction in Leicester
was it?
Square.
Yeah.
You remember it used to be the Warner Brothers cinema?
Yeah.
It was the first time they had those posters with all the characters on.
So we bunked off, yeah. And Alex had already seen the film. And there's
Right.
obviously that iconic moment in it where he's down in the dungeon and Bruce Willis comes back with the samurai sword and he pushes the door open and Alex, instead of looking at the screen, just wanted to see what my reaction was. So I felt burying my jaw in the floor. But yeah, no, I can remember... but I mean, I did do my GCSEs at Natalia Conti, and then I went on to the student course. So I did sort of another 3 years then in the students. That's really when I just wanted to focus on acting.
When you were 16, is this?
Yeah. So, excuse me, windy pops. But I was missing more and more dance classes and ballet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, my attendance for those wasn't great, and
but you were focusing, and as we've said, you're growing up, your tastes are changing, you want to focus on certain one thing, and once you start digging in that world, and when you stop, it gets more exciting. Yeah,
and the other thing is, you should say about Conti's is that, you know, I did get a few professional jobs. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, there was agency upstairs.
Those sort of things were happening. I remember doing a Mercury 1-to-1 commercial, and everyone used to, you know, those jobs came in. I remember actually being a young Take That. We danced at the Children's Royal Variety performance.
Did you?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did
you all audition for the Royal Variety performance, or was that something? Right, we want the kids from.
No, I think we did.
Conti?
I think we did audition. I mean, it was when and we danced with Take That, and it actually is so funny. This story is when they were just starting out, and the show was at the Dominion Theatre. And their sort of changing room was sort of near us along the corridor, and they only had a handful of die-hard fans, but they were the loveliest blokes. But we went, why are you called Take That? Why aren't you called Gary and the Jockstraps? They were lovely. But I do remember Robbie Williams being like, even then was sort of separate to them. That's another thing. Anyway, I recognised that.
Yeah.
But they were hilarious. So we did it. It only takes a minute, girl, to fall in love. We did that track. So I did things like that. I did did I do any other work? I didn't get much work, did I?
How did you find auditioning at such a young age? I mean, 16.
I don't know. I don't know what I felt about that. I do have really strong memories, vivid memories of going up to the notice board at Italia Conti outside the canteen.
Why, is that where all the jobs
That's
were?
where, if your name... You see, this is the other thing, you know. There is an argument that kids that small shouldn't be put in that position.
Well...
So, but there was this big thing. If your name was on the list, you'd have to go up to the agency. You'd run up there all the way up. So you weren't allowed to use a lift. Sometimes we did. And you had to go out and say, what, and you go in and say, what is it? And you'd find out what the audition was, you know. But...
And do you remember, I don't really want to get into this too much, but do you remember what they were taking as an agency, percentage-wise?
Oh, I can't remember what that was. I mean, all of that sort of went over my head, really.
Yeah.
It was more just the absolute thrill and joy of getting an audition or actually getting the part, you know.
Yeah.
But it was just a beautiful, glorious time. Glorious time.
Can I just say, I'm not saying for 1 second that Italia Conti are fleecing their children by taking like 40% or whatever.
Yeah, someone's going to give you a call.
That's all right, we'll cut this bit out. So when did you leave there then? Another 3 years being a student there? 19?
Yeah, so this was the thing. I was... I just wanted to act. That was the thing.
And do you think you were honing those skills in those 3 years? Did that help you, or did you feel a bit stifled and cramped?
No, I think it definitely gave me a training. I mean, you've seen me on stage. I mean, I'm very physical. I mean, the physicality of a character is sort of a lot of the time key to me, and I think that's definitely a consequence of the Michael Jackson routine, the dance training you get.
Yeah.
But what I wanted was to be a straight, serious actor more than anything in the world. And it was there, and I thought to myself, well, what do I do? Do I go out and try and be an actor now? I've done 6 years.
And were there other students doing that? Were they just going off?
Some were going off and things like that. But I didn't... I don't want to do a disservice to Italia Conti or anything.
No, it's all right.
But I thought, I've got to go drama school, haven't I? If I'm going to be really serious about this, if I want to have longevity, I want to have the building bricks in place and the foundation.
But obviously there was something within you, even at 19, that, of course, you're going to have that arrogance of youth, but you wanted more. You needed to feel that you needed to train more, and I think that's...
Yeah. I mean, you know, the pull of drama school, and, you know, you hear these names of, you know, Lambda and Central and RADA and all that sort of comes into play. And you think, well, how would that be? Maybe I should try that. And the person that was a big influence on that time was Dennis, my first acting teacher, and he was the one that said, look, if you want to do it, I'd go for it. And we worked on the pieces together, and I can remember, he tells this story all the time, because you had to do a Shakespeare piece and a contemporary piece. Naively, the only place I auditioned for was RADA. Stupid. I should have done it all. I should have done the drama centre, all the other...
Was there any reason for that? Or did you think, that's the place I want to go? So there are...
Well, just naively, I just thought, well, if I'm going to go anywhere, I want to go to RADA because it's sort of reputed to be the best place.
Yeah.
But, you know, in hindsight, I should have tried for all of them. But anyway, I didn't. And I chose Malvolio from Twelfth Night as my Shakespeare and did Joey from Road, like everyone else. And anyway, but I remember going to show the pieces to Dennis before the RADA audition, and specifically the Malvolio piece. And I did the letters speech,
Of course.
and I can remember it. I made the letter myself, drew it all out, coated it with coffee, burnt the edges,
Artists coming into place.
all of that.
Yeah.
Used a handkerchief. All my idea. I showed it to Dennis, and he was just like, "It sounds so beginning. I can't say anything about it. I don't want to touch it." That was it. He said, "You ready? Go and do it."
Do you feel confident then when he said that? Or did you think
He
the
said,
confidence
"I've got
within
nothing.
you?
I can't give you any ounce of knowledge or suggestions or anything. It's just."
Did you think he was going to say that?
No, I don't know. I didn't know what he was going to say, but he said, you know, he was sort of blown away, I think. And then I went to RADA, I went to the audition, did the first audition, got through the second panel, did a song at that one. I think you go for another round, and then you eventually get to the day's workshop. And I was late. Went to the wrong fucking building, didn't I? There was Gower Street and Chenier Street, and I went to Chenier Street. It was the wrong building, and I was already 10 minutes late. And I was knocking on the door, and the cleaner opened. Horrendous start to the workshop, and I just said, "Where is everyone? What's going on?" I said, "I'm here at my Rada workshop," and she was like, "What?" I said, "Rada workshop," and she went, "Over there." She said, "You're in the wrong building." So I was like half an hour late. And my friend Susan Salmon, she was late as well, and we ran in together. And I said, "Can you believe it? We're late." Anyway. And then you spend the whole day there doing workshops, Shakespeare, everything. And then you
did some improvisation?
Did improvisation, movement, voice. They put you through your paces. It's like a football trial, isn't it, or something?
And lots of different people assessing you.
Yeah. There's people observing you. And then at the end, you do your chosen monologue in front of all the other candidates.
And what did you choose?
I chose Laughing Wild by Christopher Durang, which is this neurotic New Yorker about flipping out in a supermarket. But it was an out-and-out comedy. Went down great, lot of laughs. And then didn't hear anything for ages. And then I passed my driving test, and I was in my red Mini Cooper, and I was driving through Woodford, and I had a brick Motorola Mobile, one of those things.
Yeah.
And my phone went, and it was Nick Barter from RADA, the principal. Yeah. Danny said, "It's Nick Barter here." I went, oh. I said, "Hold on, I'm driving." I said,
pull over.
I said, "Hold on, I'm driving." And I pulled over, and he told me. It was just like incredible. You know, I was sort of shocked, really. And that was it. That was the beginning of going to RADA. And it was, yeah, go on.
No, I was just saying it's fantastic. It's an amazing moment when you get that call and you've got that place. Did you get a grant? Did you worry about fees?
If you ever interview Jason Watkins,
yeah,
which you should do because he's incredible.
He is.
Ask about the time when he found out he got in RADA. I won't spoil it.
Don't spoil it.
That's a little teaser, right? See? I'm always giving.
There we go. Make the call, Griff. Get Watkins on. He's on it.
Jason, I want a percentage of the fee.
What fee? No.
What do you mean there's no fee?
You're paying us. So what did you think, speaking of money, right, grants, because you got an education a grant from your council for Italia Conti.
Yeah. Well, again, it was, I had an amazing scholar in sponsoring Charles Wall, the Wall Trust, who not only does...
So you weren't eligible for a grant, or had the grant stopped at that point?
I don't think I was eligible then. I didn't get a local council grant for RADA, no. I actually...
Were they still dishing them out, do you know?
I don't know if they were as much. I definitely didn't have one.
Yeah.
I did have help through Charles Wall. It was an absolute blessing for me, because not only does he do actors, he does sport, musicians, everything, you know. And there was me, I think Bertie Carville was with one of the Wall scholars, as was Emma Lowndes, who's around the corner here, and Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So I owe a huge debt to Charles, astonishing generosity. and wouldn't
So
have been
what is that organisation? Can you tell me a bit about it?
It's a you know, like a trust in which I think he was an accountant, if I'm right, but
And people apply?
yeah, or I think what happened was RADA had put me, the lovely Pat Myers at RADA, who was then the registrar, put me in touch with them, and I had to go in and meet Charles and the other trustees and had an interview, and they decided to take me on. There was also another bit of help from RADA, and me mum and dad again contributed some of the fees.
But they were aware, RADA were aware that, like, you didn't have the money to pay for your fees.
Oh yeah. I mean, I did my fair share of writing as well. I mean, you have to,
Yeah, of course.
try and raise your own capital as well. You know, so I was writing to, I don't know, Jeremy Irons and Michael Caine and all these people. You know what I mean? To try and help.
Did they?
I think I got money from Jeremy Irons.
I think you remember you telling me
Yeah.
that.
I actually got money from. I actually just got a bit of money from Zoe Wanamaker. Thank you very much, Zoe. Things like that. I think it was enough for a drink, but
Everything helps.
But
I know Kenneth Branagh used to give a lot of money out
you
as
have
well.
to. You know, you've got to get off your arse and
Of course you have.
you know, pave the way for yourself. But you know, there is that massive debate there, isn't it, now, about working class kids, people from poor backgrounds going to drama school and that. I have to say, very recently, RADA asked me to front an initiative that they're doing to try and get more kids from poor backgrounds from around the country into drama school. And you know, it's been well documented, isn't it? I think RADA, more than anyone, go above and beyond to try and make that the reality, and I know that they do.
Well, I know that I was only reading the other day about, and I don't know if this is true about all drama schools, but I certainly know it is with RADA, that people from poorer backgrounds who can't afford or the audition fee, they chop it or they waive it.
Right, yeah.
They do help them out like that, because audition fees can get expensive when you're shopping around for drama schools.
And rightly so. I mean, the thought of not having the money to actually pay for the audition just to get you in the door is just horrendous.
Well, I read, it was only last night actually, I read a statistic, and they didn't, this group who found this out didn't, I'm still trying to get the name of the drama school, but they wouldn't give it to me.
Yeah.
They found out that one of the top, one of the top drama schools makes 102,000 a year on audition fees alone. And when they were asked, well, what do you do with that money?
Yeah.
They didn't tell them.
Oh.
So surely that should be getting put back into the school. But
Should be.
do we?
Yeah.
I think audition fees need to be halved.
But any kid, you know, on a council estate or anywhere that's going to listen to this or wants to go to drama school, can be done.
Of course it can.
You have to have the passion, the drive, and the determination to make it happen.
Well, you're going to need it at the end of 3 years anyway.
But make no bones about it, you know, as we all know, it's such a tricky industry.
Yeah.
You have to put your armour plating on and you have to make things happen. No one's going to give you an opportunity. No one's going to, you know, you've got to go out and grab it with both hands.
And you shouldn't expect it either.
You shouldn't expect it. It's not a right for you to
No.
have that. So, you know, it can't, listen, everything comes from within, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you've got to have a fire in your belly that's going to take you there and make things happen so the door does open. You know, because there are always ways and means. There are always organisations like the Wall Trust, like the other organisations that RADA have, or whatever drama school we're talking about, where they will see talent, they will see potential in someone. You know? Because I always say, like, drama school, you have got whatever talent you've got. Yeah?
Yeah.
It gets you in the door, it gets you through the audition process, and it gets you a place there, right?
Yeah.
That never leaves you.
No.
That's part of your DNA, it's part of your makeup. What drama school gives you is the tools to go with it. The accents, the movement, the voice, opening your mind up to different writers and playwrights and modes of theatre. It equips you.
And you're putting all this stuff in your backpack over the 3 years. You might not pull one of those things out for 10 years, but it's there. You've still
bag
got
of tools.
it.
Go out there with your bag of tools.
Yeah. Well, it's like your dad. He's got his tools in there. It's exactly the same.
Yeah. You know, it's a craft. You can, you know, you can learn how to do it, but the thing that gets you through the door in the first place is the fire within. That's it.
And the talent that you brought. You brought that to the door. They didn't give that to you. You brought that to them.
Yeah.
And they're just building on you.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think anybody
like
listening to this...
It's like raw talent. Like when I left RADA, you know, it's such a glorious time. When you leave drama, it's horrendous, really. It's glorious and it's awful because...
Well, it's terrifying as well.
It's terrifying. You're going out into the big wide world. You know, some people are signed with agents, others haven't. And you're there in the big wide world and you've got to seek employment, right? But, you know, you're so green, you don't know nothing. And all you've got, you just got that fire, man. Just to go out and conquer the whole world. I mean, I was like possessed, you know. I remember we were flatmates.
Yeah.
You know, we both were.
Yeah,
you know, you've got no kids, you've got no responsibilities, you've got...
It's just that single crazed work ethic. That's all you want to do. Is feed yourself. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, and then, you know, luckily things happen and the ball starts to roll.
How do you deal with the times when they don't happen, or it's hard to get that fire stoked in your belly?
Well, listen, I left RADA and I didn't work for nearly like 6 months. I'd signed with London Management. I'd signed with Sarah Spear, who I'm still with now. They're now at the brilliant Curtis Brown. But I was working as at Jane Collins Casting. I was a casting assistant. I was operating the camera. She was a commercials casting person in King's Cross.
Right.
And I actually ended up taking the castings for all the extras. They had to do like a little simple acting thing. And, but I was going in for things, wasn't getting anything. Just awful, you know, fearful time of going, what have I done? What do I do now? I've thrown all my eggs in one basket and I'm not getting any bites.
But at least you weren't sat on your ass waiting for the phone to ring. You were out there earning some money.
No, I was earning money. Yeah, no, I was, you know, trying to stay positive. And then all of a sudden I got a audition for EastEnders. Julia Crampsey, the casting director, I went in. It was to play Kevin, the ex-boyfriend of the Slaters when they arrived.
I remember it well.
Chained himself up to the gate like a suffragette.
I just remember us shouting up to the window.
Yeah.
Was it raining?
Yeah, it was all that, yeah. So, but the thing that happened was I got 4 episodes on that. And I cannot stress this enough. It's the relationships that you build up. And that was the first meaningful professional relationship I had, was with Julia Crampsey. And she saw me, she cast me in EastEnders, and then she cast me in a show called In Deep with Stephen Tompkinson and Nick Berry. But it was that connection.
Yeah.
So it was, you quickly learn to make friends with good people.
Yeah.
Casting directors, producers, directors, build up a network of people and go in and smash the job, know your lines, give it your all, and things start to happen. Like, it's like a push and pull thing, isn't it? Do you know what I'm saying? I was at dinner with a producer the other day and he said, the thing is, it's like, it's push and it's pull. You come out of drama school and you just push with all your might just to get noticed, just to put your head above the parapet, just to get recognition, just to get something.
Yeah.
And then things start to happen and this, that and the other. And then you start to get traction and then you can stop pushing a little bit. And then it's always like trial and error. It's always like, it's an ever changing thing, you know? So,
do you feel it has changed over the sort of, 20 years now, isn't it, Dan?
Well, I graduated RADA year 2000, so yeah.
Yeah, coming up.
Nearly 20 years. Yeah.
Do you feel...
Nearly 20 years ago now.
Do you feel it's changed, the business, little aspects of it? Or certain attitudes have changed?
Not overtly, no. I think you still... Look, it's still about you... getting a call, getting a script through. This is the time and the place.
Doing the homework.
These are the people that you're going to meet.
Yeah.
This is the script. Read it, prepare, and do the best you can. That's really all you can do.
Yeah.
But learn it, have a clear understanding of what you're going to do in the room, have your own take on it, and leave it all in the room. I always say to young actors when they ask for advice, I say, like, don't ever leave an audition and think I could have done this or I didn't do that.
Yeah. Try and
You've got to
switch
leave
it
it.
off.
You just got to leave it in
But
the
that
room.
comes with time, I think, as well. Because sometimes I know younger actors spoke to me going, I had this audition, and then I couldn't stop thinking about it on the way home. And then I thought, why did I say that? I shouldn't have done that. You do have to leave it there, but I think that comes with time.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, the other thing is,
But also, I've been in that situation still up until now, that sometimes I find it hard to leave it in the room sometimes.
do you? Right.
On certain things.
Yeah.
Can you honestly say that you can really leave it in the room after every job now?
No, I mean, like every audition you do is not going to. It's not going to go according to plan. Sometimes,
No.
Sometimes you have an off day, don't you?
Well, that's not. You can't control that.
No,
That's
no,
another
you
sense
can't.
of the power. You can only control what you do.
But I mean, look, I've stayed in the game.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you, like a lot of our friends.
Yeah.
And it's
And,
not.
and some have dropped away over
Some
the
of them-
years.
and because it's precarious, because it's difficult, because it's overpopulated, because there is a lot of talented actors out there.
True.
And we're all going for the same thing. I've learned over the years to let all that go.
Yeah.
I was a bit like a bear with a sore head. If I don't get the part, my agent's probably listening to go, "You're like that now, Danny." No,
I
but
don't think you are,
no, I'm
actually.
not.
I think you've changed a lot.
I've mellowed out.
Yeah.
I was, like I said, it's like life and death when you first start out. But, you get older, you mature. I've got kids now. I think, in actual fact, the drive in order to work just shifts. It doesn't
Well, of
really...
course it is, because your priorities change.
I'm there to provide for my family and to put a roof over their head and to pay for school fees and, just to provide. And so that really now becomes my driving force.
But not in a selfish way. You still need to feed your artistic... You need to get that level up as well, don't you?
Yeah, but then all of a sudden you'll get a project will come along which, ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Case in point, recently, Against the Law with Fergus O'Brien. Just something I'd never attempted before, an amazing script by Brian Phillis, and you think, wow, that is a challenge. That is something I've never done. Can I do that?
Of course you can, but-
Really scared of doing it, but let's jump in and do it.
But how brilliant that they cast you, a working class actor, in that part.
Yeah.
And they
I felt
didn't-
really privileged.
But they obviously knew. But they could quite easily have gone the same old route by casting a very sort of one of the well-known upper-class actors to do
They
that.
could have cast a well-known gay actor, really. I mean,
Yeah.
they could have gone down that route. Of
course.
It was really... it felt like a breath of fresh air, and I felt incredibly lucky that... I mean, I did think, this is not normally the role that I play, but what I'm saying to you is, the longer you stay in it, if you have that longevity, if you are consistently professional, you learn your lines, you try and stretch yourself as a performer, if you stay in it long enough, something will happen.
Sure.
A part will come along or a project will be offered to you where you think, wow, this is just like, I mean, John Hurt died recently, and I saw this amazing interview with him, and he was saying the process of acting, even to him, the latter stages of his life, it was always evolving. It was always changing. It was always going deeper and deeper within himself.
Yeah.
There are still, I mean, that's the beauty and the mystique of the acting profession is you can do anything, really.
And also, you never stop learning.
You never stop learning. And that's a great thing, It's,
Dan, have you ever thought about giving it up? Have you ever thought about stopping?
no, because it's a compulsion.
Yeah.
It's like a deep need to... I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some times where you've missed out on a part that you really want, and I've had to cope with rejection and knockbacks as much as the next actor. Joe Bloggs don't think that. That's the other thing.
Yeah, of course.
Because there's also a huge goodwill that goes into all this acting lark as well. You've got to be lucky enough to get the part. You've then got to go through the hard process of filming it, but then you promote it and things like that. You don't get paid for any of that. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
You go on one of these talk shows and things like that. There's so much goodwill that goes with it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like jobbing actors, which is really how I class myself.
Yeah.
A jobbing character actor. There, I've said it. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you go, like, you've got on the talk show, things like that. That's all like, that's, you know.
That's part and parcel
part
of
and
it when you
parcel
sign up for it.
Selling the product.
Of course.
But, you know, but, you know, Joe Bloggs think, oh, you must be doing well. You're always on the telly and things like that. But the reality of that is so far removed from what they think it is.
Of course. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure.
I've really enjoyed that. I mean, it's like we didn't touch on the fact that we were flatmates, really, did we?
I don't know if people know. Me and Dan were flatmates for a while when we were young, free and single.
There's enough.
And I remember actually when you didn't we have up in the living room a painting of your De Niro?
Yeah, I've got to.
No, it was Raging Bull, wasn't it? Or was it a Taxi Driver one?
It was all my favourite De Niro.
Yeah, there was loads, wasn't there?
I think
there was one up in the kitchen as well.
Yeah, I've got it up at home. Yeah, everything's on there. Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, King of Comedy, all of it. Yeah, that shows you how much of a fan I was.
But this is all right. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
No, I really did. I mean, and it was actually really refreshing to not talk about the credits that you've got.
But that's
I mean, it's so much. I've really enjoyed sort of going back, way back, to sort of discover and to talk about and to reminisce on where it all came from, and the actual path that you've gone on. It's sort of,
but, you know, as we were saying before, you know, talking about the credits and stuff is when you sign up for the job, you know that's part and parcel of it. We're going to be talking about the ins and outs of the job, that film, that TV piece, that theatre piece. Sometimes it can be a bit dull. That's why I don't want to do this on the podcast. And people who are listening to that, if they want to know, they can easily find back interviews and stuff on the internet. Can't find this. Yeah, no.
But the other thing we should say, really, I'm just talking about young actors, that I always, my advice is to do theatre as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other thing. Because as much as anything, you know, film and TV, obviously it pays the bills, but there's only so much you can do waiting around on a unit base to be used. It's just step on the boards and, you know, give a performance over the course of an evening.
You're getting different tools out your bag, though, aren't you? It's completely different.
But you like to keep your hand in with theatre as well, don't you?
I love to, yeah. But I do love to. But it's hard with me sometimes because I live out of London now.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be something really special, and it's got to be the right part. Yeah. But it's also got to be special. It's also got to be the right part. It's got to be the right director. It's got to be the right play.
Yeah.
You're forever looking for that.
Yeah, it's always a number of factors why you say yes to a part, isn't it?
With theatre or with any job, isn't it? Danny Mays, you're an absolute joy. Love
you're a legend, Parky. Thanks a lot.
And there we go. What about that? It's just brilliant, isn't he? Yeah, look, I love Dan to bits. I really hope that you enjoyed that episode. And, you know, that is Dan. He has got his feet firmly on the floor, and he doesn't put on any airs and graces. He is who he is, and he's true to himself, and that's what makes him such a fantastic person and a one-of-a-kind actor. I think he's a brilliant actor. Dan, thank you. Episode 21 next week, which I will tell you about on Monday, as usual, on Twitter at 2ShotPod. It'll be on the Facebook at 2ShotPod, Instagram too, you know that. I'm on Twitter at cparks1976. But let's jump forward, right, to 2018. Now, this has all happened in the past 3-4 days, really. But we're very honoured to say that the podcast, myself and Griff, have been invited to 3 different festivals next year to host the Two Shot Podcast live. And we're mega excited and honoured. It's these are 3 very different festivals. And I've been to 2 of them as a punter and love them. So to be there and to take the podcast there is thrilling. So they're going to be all around the UK. There's 3 or different places around the UK, so I'm sure you'll be able to get to one of them. Or maybe you want to come to all three. There will be different guests in all three. That's something that we are going to have a big meeting about very soon, and who we can get on. And before that, of course, in 2018, we are opening the podcast out just a little bit. I mean, it's still going to be about creatives. We're still going to have actors on, but it's all about the stories, all about human stories. And we are going to have, I've got lined up, I've got musicians, I've got DJs, I've got a poet, I've got a fantastic artist, I've got directors, I've got producers. Yeah, look, the list goes on. It's just going to get bigger and better. Meeting fantastic people, telling their stories, and getting the kettle on and having a natter. You take care of yourself, and I will see you next week for episode 21. Yeah, I've been Craig Parkinson. He has been producer Griff, and this has been the Two Shot Podcast. Thanks so much for downloading and joining us, and we'll see you next week. All right, take it easy. The Two Shot Podcast is presented by me, Craig Parkinson, recorded and produced by Thomas Griffin for Splicing Block. Our brilliant music is courtesy of Then Thickens. Cheers.